Okay, today I'm gonna talk about how to use MongoDB in our Express application. Um, Come to this. So, to, we'll just take a look at this project we have done from last class. Alright, so if I want to add something, I can do test 2, and then the new atom will be displayed here. But only one thing is when we get some data, we store that in this db.json file. This is not what we do in the real world project, right? We normally will persist the data into database, right? So this is the reason why I need to talk about MongoDB. So if you want to install that, actually there are two types of a database. So first one is MongoDB Community Edition, which you can install that locally. This is the actual database you can install on your PC. There's another one called MongoDB Atlas. This one is a cloud storage platform. Right? So you can connect your source code or your own application with either community MongoDB or Atlas MongoDB, right? But in this class, I'm gonna talk about the second one, Mongo Atlas. Why? Because it's gonna save more storage, I mean disk space of my computer. There's no actually, there is only one minor difference between how to use community and Atlas. Um, okay, so let's come to Mongo Atlas. As you can see here, so there are three ways. You can either connect with MongoDB shell or connect your application to your cluster using MongoDB's native drivers and using MongoDB campus, right? I'm gonna uh, introduce you first two. So the first one is using MongoDB shell to connect to database. So what is that, right? It is pretty straightforward. If you are using this, you can just download a Mongo shell on your PC. Then you can use this URL to connect the cloud storage platform Mongo Atlas. But then you need to actually you need a Atlas account. Then you create a cluster yourself and then follow this instruction. Then you can just to your uh, connect to your databases. It is pretty straightforward. All you need to do is just follow these instructions, right? So um, okay, right? Gonna so if you have done installation, you can do mongo shell dash dash version to get the version number. Then it means that you have installed that successfully. Then I'm just gonna paste this command line here, give it password, Yes, now you are in your you have successfully logged in your cloud database. Um, so Mongo shell and Mongo um, connect in your application. I'm gonna introduce the second one later. So if you want to use it, you need some basic commands. Show db's. What does this mean? This is a pretty similar. This is just show db's, right? So display all databases available. Show collections. Use db. Switch to db. You want to use show collections. Pretty similar to show all tables in relational database. db.collection.find. Show all records in relational database, which is named as document in MongoDB. So a record is because this is a no circle. This is not this is not original DB, right? So the terminology is different. So it is record in the original DB, but in this case it's called document. So basically you have three type of thing in this DB. So DB means database, collections means table, and the document means a record, right? So let's try it. Show DBs. Now I have these databases, right? So I can do DB. It will show your current database you are using, and I can do use person. No. Switch to DB personal, right? And show collections, right? So these are the collections instead of on this personal collection, on this personal database, in this personal database. All right. So suppose I'm gonna find all records, all documents in one collection. So tutorials.find, it will give you all the records, right? Okay. Okay, now we have already successfully connect the database using this shell. But again, we need to take a look at the second one. It's called connect the connect string in your application code, right? So right here. So right here, I'm just gonna paste it in our code. Okay, I'm just gonna create a new file here. So server, give it a mongodb.js. Right. So const URL. Okay. Okay, now I have already got this address. So if you are connecting the local database instead of a cloud database, then you can just change this address. Then it will all same. It will all same, right? If you look at this, it says include full driver. It means that if you want to interact with database, you need a driver, which is Mongo client. But in this case, I'm not going to use it because this offshore driver is rarely used. In the real world project, we use mongoose driver more. So connect, create schema mongoose installation. Create a schema, create a model. So if you want to use this mongoose, we need to npm installer mongoose, right? And so in this database file, we need to const mongoose equal to require mongoose. Okay. So we have this destination address. We have mongoose. Then we can use mongoose.connect URI to connect the database. But there's one thing you may have already noticed, that there is a password you need to input yourself, and right here you need to configure your the database you wanna use, right? So we have already changed this personal. We have already changed this database name. We need to use this password. So normally we don't just read the password right here. If you upload your file, your project, or your source code on the GitHub, so everyone can see this. Usually we just store the password in the dot environment file. I'm not gonna show you the content of this file because I stored my password. So I have a config. I can use dot and config. Instead of this, I pass an object path direct name and plus current folder, upper level folder dot environment, right? So in this template string, I can just convert this, right? So config parsed Yeah, this should be fine. Okay, let's try it. So again, if you look at this, so we finished the mongoose installation. To use the mongoose, we have to follow two steps. The first one is to create a schema, and the second one is to create a model. So what do these two concepts mean? So if I open this mongoose schema, so define a schema. So everything in mongoose starts with a schema. Each schema maps to MongoDB collection and define the shape of the document within. Actually, if we just put some restrictions on your data tab or data structure or document, or you can just think it as table, right? And not table, record. So each record you need to put some restriction on that, right? So it's fairly straightforward. I'm just gonna copy it and paste it here. So in the server file, I'm gonna create a models folder, and this model is for tutorial. Yes. Okay. So I open this. So not import, right? Should be require, because you are using this is not blocks. We have a tutorial schema, right? So in this in this schema, we need to declare 4 properties, right? So including ID, title, description, and status, right? So title, description, status, and status is a boolean, right? So the last one is ID. We can besides this type of declaration, using a string. So actually this is a short, as you can see here. So string is a shorthand for tab.string. So if you want to put more restriction on one field, you can do tab string. I want this ID is required, so required is true, right? You can just use an object as an restriction on the field, on one field, right? Yes, now we have finished creating this schema, and after schema we need a model. So click this model. So compiling your first model means, if you look at this, you have a schema, then you can do mongoose.model and schema, export this schema. So what does this mean? I'm just gonna copy this first. So schema is not schema, is tutorial schema, right? What does this mean? So this is actually the table name, or the collection's name. You want to generate it. You want to generate it in your database. So I want to add a new tutorial table in my database. So I just use this mongoose.model the tutorial, And if we want to use it, we can just export this. Right. Let me just put this in the MongoDB file for the moment, so that you can have a better module.export equal to tutorial schema, and we can const tutorial schema dot require models tutorial. So after, I'm just gonna I'll put this model in this file because I want to show you the whole process of connection, right? So after connect to this destiny address, so we have we generate a model based on the schema. Then we just export this model. So we have the model, then we are able to interact with the MongoDB Atlas, rewrite all HTTP requests, right? It means that we don't, in this server file, we don't need to store or get data from the db.json. We can just actually interact with MongoDB directly, right? I'm just gonna close this. So first, let's try it to connect. Try to connect the database. So in this create a HTTP request, right? Create new tutorial object. I'm not gonna use this get data anymore. Instead, I'm gonna const tutorial model. This is a tutorial model, right? Tutorial model. Let's just give a name as no, just tutorial. So require MongoDB, right? Now we have this tutorial, and we can just create by new tutorial and tutorial object dot save, and after that we send. Right, you look at this. So handle the creator request. We create a new tutorial object, and we just save it and persist this object into the database, right? So let me open this tutorials again. Open this console window. Gonna add one test one. Oh, I need to show you this database first. So show DBs, and we are currently using personal, right? So show collections. As you can see here, so we have tutorial models collection, right? We don't have a tutorials collection or model, right? So do we need to create this table first before we use it in the MongoDB? No, we don't have to. So let me send a request. Internal server. So why? It means that we didn't handle this. So actually we need to handle this. Okay, let's take a look. Cannot find module dot environment. Okay. Submit. Then you have already submitted successfully. Yes, there's no any error message here, right? So let's open our database. So collections, as you can see here, so there is new tables called tutorials has been generated automatically. So if I do tutorial.find, then you can see the test and the description. Number one, this record, this document has been added to our collection. So what does this mean? So if you look at this, so this I have mentioned that this line of code just generate a new table in our database automatically, and in this part you just only pass a collection name with first letter uppercase, and then in your database it will just convert it to first letter lowercase with an S, tutorials, right? This is the MongoDB data for you. The only thing you need to do is just generate a model and use this model to interact with database like this, right? So we have finished this one. Create a new object, right? So we can just pass it directly right here. So create a new object. So then we're gonna handle that one by one. So this one is get all HTTP requests, right? So it means that we're gonna find all the data or the records in the database, right? So we don't need this get data anymore, and instead we need a tutorial. Again, we use this model dot find. Empty object with means that you find all records, right? So and this function will give you will give you either an error or a data you have been you have retrieved or you have requested from database. So now if we go back to tutorials, as you can see here, so the last record we have added from here, it has already been displayed in the front end. So it means that get all request has been successfully executed, right? So actually there are two ways to do that. Either use a callback function, or we can use async await. So queries find. Oh yes, right here. So find async await, or you can use model.find and a callback function. So I'm gonna introduce you. Review the promise and async await in the next class, and we're gonna improve this code later. So we're gonna use async await in this code later instead of a callback function like this. But in this case, I'm just gonna follow the optional instruction, right? This is the basic way to execute it. So Another one is fed one by ID, right? So we don't need to get the data and get the array data and a loop and fed the ID. We can simply do tutorial.fed1 and put a ID right here. So it's actually ID, but we just use it as ID. So then it will just return whatever you want. So function error data and res.send data. Right? So go back to this. I'm just gonna add a new one. It's called test2. A new one, test3. Okay. So we come to the tutorial and we click this edit button, as you can see here. So this one is what we have retrieved from the database, right? So this is what we do, get by ID, get ID request, right? So we have finished this create request. And there's another one is handle update. So we need to fed this one by ID, then update this part, right? So we don't need this anymore. Instead, we can do tutorial.fed one and update. Again, you just pass ID here, and second, you just pass whatever you wanna change, you wanna update. Again, it's gonna give you error or data. Actually, if you don't write this callback, let's try it. If you don't write this callback function, it's fine. This callback function should be optional. So, okay, I give it a 1-1. So, update. Res.send, right? Okay, 1-1-1. Okay, the so show db.tutorials.fed. So 1 is still 1, so it means that we have falsely used this this API to tutorial fed1 and update. So how about we add this function? Fed1 and update should be cool. Oh yeah, so the callback function is not optional. We need we need to put this. So we need to add this functional this callback function, right? So in the real world projects, we better to use this callback just in case there's an error happen, right? As you can see here, so if we use this mongoose API, is far more easier than we we did before, like this, right? So again, remove by ID. So we just comment this out. So tutorial dot fed1 and delete. Function error Okay, let's try it. So I'm gonna delete this second one. Oh, restart. Yeah, it has already been deleted, right? So if the second one has been deleted, so if we do tutorials, and then you can see it here. So there's only 2 records in the database, right? So if I delete this one, yeah, good. And the last one is remove all, right? So we don't need this anymore. Instead, we use tutorial dot delete many. Delete many. You can give it a right filter or condition here, right? So you give it an empty condition. Empty object means that you delete all. If you put an ID or something, it would just delete all records with same ID, right? So let's try it. Need to rest.send. Okay. I click remove all, then it all remove. We come to this database. As you can see, there's no record, there's no document anymore. So now we have finished rewriting all these HTTP handlers right here, right? So, but this is not good enough. Like I said, let me change this one to tutorial.create. Yeah, so we use this one. It looks more consistent, right, to each other. So tutorial dot instead of a new tutorial dot save, right? So it looks more beautiful and consistent. This is not good enough. Like I said, we can use async and await, right? So so we don't have to use this callback function all the time, right? So to avoid the callback hell, and we have the file structure is not good enough, and we need to put all the modules in the modules folder, and in the database file we just do a simple connection, right? So we need to improve this this little step by step, and in the next class probably I will just introduce you how to use how to use promise, and I will introduce you a little bit more about the core modules before we finish this. Before we do source code optimization, right? Okay, so this is pretty much about MongoDB Atlas in MongoDB Atlas in Express application.